I'm Rose Jenkins, 73 years old, and I never thought I'd be telling this story from a motel room in Macon, Georgia. For 42 years I was a high school English teacher, the kind who stayed after hours helping students master Shakespeare and find their voice. That same patience served me well, raising my only son Marcus, after my Harold passed in '89. But patience has its limits, and sometimes love isn't enough to keep your children from becoming strangers. Before I tell you my story, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you enjoy stories like this, please like and subscribe, it helps me keep sharing more. That morning started like any other Tuesday. I was tending to my roses. Harold planted them when we first bought the house in '81. When Marcus's black SUV pulled into the driveway, something was different about his walk as he came up the path. His shoulders were too straight, his smile too wide, like a mask that didn't quite fit. "We're going tomorrow, Mom. I've sold your bitch house." The pruning shears slipped from my fingers, hitting the soil with a dull thud. The words didn't make sense at first, like hearing English underwater. "What did you say?" "It's done. Signed the papers this morning. The new owners want immediate possession." He pulled out a folder, waving it like some kind of victory flag. "You're moving to Sunrise Haven. I've already packed most of your things. What would you have done if your son spoke to you like that? Standing there in the garden your husband planted, where you'd watched your child grow from a boy who scraped his knees on the sidewalk to a man who now seemed intent on cutting out your heart." I looked at my son's face, really looked at him, and saw something I'd missed before. A hardness around his eyes, a twist to his mouth that reminded me of someone, but I couldn't place who. My fingers trembled as I reached for the folder, but he pulled it back. "Don't worry about the paperwork, Mom. Everything's taken care of." His voice was honey-coated poison. "You just need to be ready by tomorrow morning." But what Marcus didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that I'd received a very interesting phone call the week before, one that would change everything about his carefully laid plans. Should I have seen this coming? Maybe the signs were there all along, hidden in the subtle shifts of his visits, the way he studied the house like an appraiser rather than a son. But before I tell you about that phone call, I need to take you back 3 months to when I first noticed the strange car parked across the street, and the woman inside who would turn out to be the key to understanding everything. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had someone you trusted completely reveal themselves to be someone else entirely? And don't forget to subscribe for what happens next. Because trust me, this story is about to take a turn none of us saw coming. Looking back, that silver Lexus should have been my first warning. It appeared in March, always parked under the maple tree across from my house. The woman inside would sit there for hours, pretending to read but watching my home through her designer sunglasses. At first I thought she might be one of those real estate agents who circle neighborhoods like vultures, waiting for elderly folks to give up their home. But something about her seemed familiar. If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure to hit that like button and leave a comment about any suspicious activity you've noticed in your own neighborhood. One Wednesday morning, while watering my front garden, I caught her staring directly at me. Instead of looking away, she stepped out of her car. Her heels clicked against the pavement as she crossed the street, each step deliberate and measured. She was younger than me by about 20 years, dressed in an expensive navy pantsuit that screamed corporate success. "Mrs. Jenkins," her voice carried the kind of confidence that comes with privilege. "I'm Angela Morrison from First Capital Trust. We need to talk about Marcus." My stomach dropped at the mention of my son's name. "What about Marcus?" She glanced around nervously before lowering her voice. "Could we speak inside? What I have to tell you shouldn't be discussed on your front lawn." The kitchen had always been my safe haven, but as Angela sat at my worn oak table, the one where Marcus had done his homework all those years ago, it felt like an intruder had breached my sanctuary. Her manicured fingers traced the rim of the water glass I'd given her, and I noticed she wore no wedding ring. "Mrs. Jenkins, I'm afraid your son has been attempting to access your accounts through our bank. Not just your checking account. Everything. The house deed, your retirement funds, even your safety deposit box." She pulled out a manila envelope. "He's been forging your signature." The room tilted slightly. I gripped the edge of the table, feeling the familiar groove where Marcus had once carved his initials. There must be some mistake. Marcus handles some of my finances, yes. But, with your permission, She opened the envelope, spreading out documents across the table. These transfer attempts started 3 months ago. We flagged them because the signatures didn't match your original documents. But here's what concerns me most. She pointed to a loan application. This was submitted last week. He's trying to take out a second mortgage on your house. In your name. My throat felt like I'd swallowed sand. Why are you telling me this? Isn't this confidential information? Angela's eyes softened. Because 20 years ago, my mother lost everything to my brother's gambling addiction. He did exactly what Marcus is trying to do now. I swore I'd never let it happen to another mother, if I could help. The ceiling fan hummed above us, pushing around air that suddenly felt too thick to breathe. Through the window I could see my roses swaying in the spring breeze, oblivious to how my world was crumbling. There's more, Angela said, pulling out one final document. We've traced some unusual transfers from Marcus's personal accounts, large sums going to offshore gambling sites. Mrs. Jenkins, I believe your son is in serious trouble. I closed my eyes, remembering how Harold used to say our son had his mother's brain but his father's demons. Harold's brother had lost everything to gambling back in '75. The addiction ran in the family like a cursed inheritance. What can I do? My voice sounded strange to my own ears, hollow and far away. First, we need to secure your assets, but more importantly, Angela leaned forward, her expression grave. You need to understand that, whatever story Marcus tells you in the coming days, whatever excuse he makes to get control of your property or finances, it's not about taking care of you. It's about covering his debt. But there was something in the way she said it, something in her eyes that made me wonder, was she telling me everything? Because when she gathered her documents to leave, I caught a glimpse of another paper, one she quickly tucked away. It had Marcus's name on it, yes, but there was another name too, partially visible in bold text. What would you do if you discovered your only child was plotting against you? But more importantly, was Angela Morrison really there to help me? Or was there another layer to the story that I had yet to uncover? As I watched her drive away, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Coming by tomorrow, Mom. Need to discuss something important about the house. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a web of lies that would unravel in ways I never could have imagined. But before I tell you what happened next, I need to know, have you ever had someone try to help you, only to wonder if they had ulterior motive? Share your experiences in the comments below. Because what I discovered the next day would make Angela's revelations seem like just the tip of a very dark iceberg. The night after Angela's visit, I couldn't sleep. I found myself in Harold's old study, pulling out dusty photo albums and bank statements I'd kept hidden in his roll-top desk. The yellowish light from his vintage desk lamp cast shadows across faded photographs. Marcus's graduation, his first job at the bank, the proud smile he wore when he made junior partner. But now those memories felt tainted, like looking at photographs of a stranger wearing my son's face. If you're still with me on this journey, drop a heart emoji in the comments. Your support means everything. And don't forget to subscribe for more family stories that might just save someone else from what I went through. The old floorboard near the doorway creaked. Harold's natural alarm system, he used to call it. I startled, expecting to find Marcus standing there, but it was just the house settling. My hands trembled as I opened the last album, and a folded piece of paper slipped out. Harold's handwriting, still crisp after all these years. My dearest Rose, if you're reading this, something's gone wrong with Marcus. The safety deposit box at First Capital Trust, box 71. The key is taped behind your grandmother's portrait. I pray you never need this. Harold. My heart nearly stopped. Harold had passed 15 years ago, but he'd seen something in our son that I'd been blind to. The portrait he mentioned hung in our bedroom. My grandmother Ida, stern-faced and proud, painted in 1952, with shaking fingers. I lifted it from the wall. There, yellowed with age, was a small key taped to the back. Before I could process this discovery, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Mrs. Jenkins, it's Angela. Don't go to the bank tomorrow. Marcus has scheduled a meeting with another banker. Call me. What would you do if the past and present collided like this? If your dead husband's warning suddenly became terrifyingly relevant? I called Angela immediately. Her voice was tense, controlled, Mrs. Jenkins, there's something I didn't tell you yesterday. Marcus isn't just gambling. He's involved with someone, a woman named Victoria Chase. She's known for targeting wealthy families, particularly through vulnerable sons. The name hit me like a physical blow. Victoria Chase. The partially hidden name I'd glimpsed on Angela's document. But there was something else. Something that made my blood run cold. I knew that name from somewhere else. Mrs. Jenkins. Angela's voice seemed to come from far away. Are you still there? Victoria Chase. I whispered. She was Harold's secretary. Before Marcus was born. The one who... I couldn't finish the sentence.
If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and lets me keep bringing you more amazing love stories. Alright, back to the story.
The silence on the other end of the line stretched out like a shadow. Finally, Angela spoke, her voice different now, harder. Mrs. Jenkins, I need you to listen carefully. Victoria Chase isn't just any con artist. She's been working this same scheme for 30 years. She finds wealthy families, seduces the sons, and then she disappears with everything. I finished. Just like she tried with Harold. The pieces were falling into place now. The way Marcus had been acting, the sudden interest in my finances, the rushed sale of the house. History wasn't just repeating itself. It was coming full circle with a vengeance. But here's what doesn't make sense, Angela continued. Victoria Chase should be in her 70s now. The woman working with Marcus is in her 40s. Unless it's her daughter, I said, the realization hitting me like a thunderbolt. Victoria had a daughter. Harold told me before he died. He'd been sending them money in secret, out of guilt, he said. For the child. The line went quiet again, but this time the silence had a different quality to it. When Angela spoke again, her voice had changed subtly. Mrs. Jenkins, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. The reason I know so much about this case, about Victoria Chase. But before she could finish, I heard the front door open downstairs. Marcus's voice called out, Mom? You up there? I have to go, I whispered into the phone. Wait, Angela said urgently. Check the safety deposit box. Tomorrow morning, first thing. Before, I ended the call as Marcus's footsteps started up the stairs. Quickly, I slipped the key into my robe pocket and closed the roll-top desk. When he appeared in the doorway, I was sitting in Harold's old leather chair, trying to look casual despite my pounding heart. What are you doing up so late? He asked, but his eyes were scanning the room, taking inventory. Just feeling nostalgic, I said, watching his face carefully. You know, your father used to talk about Victoria Chase sometimes. Do you remember her? The change was subtle, a tightening around his eyes, a slight clench of his jaw, but it was enough. In that moment, I knew everything Angela had told me was true, and probably just the beginning. What secrets would I find in that safety deposit box? And why did Angela's voice change when she started to tell me about her connection to Victoria Chase? Share your theories in the comments below, because what I discovered the next morning would shake the very foundation of everything I thought I knew about my family. But standing there in Harold's study, watching my son's face in the dim light, I realized something even more chilling. I wasn't the only one keeping secrets that night. The next morning, I arrived at First Capital Trust the moment they opened. My hands clutched my grandmother's old leather purse, the one with the hidden compartment where I'd tucked Harold's key. The early morning sun cast long shadows through the bank's tall windows, and every clicking heel against marble made me jump. I kept expecting to see Marcus walk in, or worse, Victoria Chase's daughter. Before we continue, if you're invested in my story, hit that subscribe button. I have a feeling you'll want to know how this all ends. And believe me, nobody saw this coming. The bank manager, Peterson, led me to the safety deposit room himself. Mrs. Jenkins, he said quietly. Angela Morrison called ahead. Take all the time you need. He paused, then added, and don't worry, if anyone asks, you were never here. Box 72 looked like any other, but my fingers trembled so badly I could barely insert the key. Inside, I found a single manila envelope, thick with documents, and a letter in Harold's handwriting dated just weeks before his death. My Rose, if you're reading this, then Marcus has fallen into the same trap I nearly did. 30 years ago, Victoria Chase wasn't just my secretary. She was part of a sophisticated long con family. Her mother did the same thing in the 60s. Now I fear her daughter will continue their legacy. I've gathered evidence, account numbers, photographs, everything you need to protect yourself and our son. But Rose, there's something else you need to know about Angela Morrison. My heart stopped. How did Harold know about Angela? She couldn't have been more than a teenager when he died. Before I could read further, my phone buzzed. Marcus. Mom, where are you? I came by the house. We need to sign those final papers today. Just running errands, baby. I lied, my voice steadier than I felt. I'll be home soon. I quickly spread the contents of the envelope across the private viewing table. Photographs spilled out. Victoria Chase in various decades, with different men, different families. Bank statements showing millions siphoned from accounts. Police reports that went nowhere. And then I saw it. A family tree, meticulously drawn by Harold, showing 3 generations of Chase women. My blood ran cold as I traced the lines down to the newest name, Angela Chase Morrison. The room spun. Angela wasn't some good Samaritan banker trying to help me. She was Victoria Chase's granddaughter. But why warn me about her own family's con? What game was she really playing? As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. Angela, don't trust anything you find in that box. Harold didn't tell you everything. Meet me at the Magnolia Diner in 30 minutes. I'll explain. What would you do? Trust the woman who warned you about your son's betrayal, only to discover she's part of the family that's been destroying lives for generations. I gathered everything into my purse, hands shaking. But as I stood to leave, a small photo fluttered to the floors. It was older than the others, yellowed at the edges. A young woman holding a baby, standing next to my Harold. The date on the back, 1982, the year before Marcus was born. The banker's words echoed in my head. If anyone asks, you were never here. He knew. They all knew something I didn't. At the Magnolia Diner, Angela was already waiting in a back booth, her face pale. Mrs. Jenkins, she said, as I slid into the seat across from her. I need to tell you the real reason I came forward. Victoria Chase isn't just my grandmother. She's... The diner's bell chimed. We both turned to see Marcus walking in, and he wasn't alone. An elegant woman in her 40s followed him. Her face, a younger version of the woman in those photographs. Victoria Chase's daughter. But it was the third person who made my heart stop. Victoria Chase herself, still elegant in her 70s. Wearing the same triumphant smile I remembered from 30 years ago. Well, Victoria said, sliding into our booth, uninvited. Isn't this a touching family reunion? Angela's face went white. Marcus looked confused. And I finally understood what Harold had been trying to tell me all these years. Because there, in Victoria's aged face, I saw Angela's features. And in Angela's face, I saw my son's eyes looking back at me. What secrets had Harold taken to his grave? And why was Angela really trying to stop her own family's con? Leave your theories in the comments below, because the truth is more twisted than any of us could have imagined. Just then, Marcus pulled out the house papers, his hand trembling slightly. Mom, I need you to sign these. Now. But his voice caught on the word mom, and for the first time, I wondered if he already knew what I was just beginning to understand. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and somewhere in the kitchen, a pot clattered to the floor. But all I could hear was Harold's voice from that letter. There's something else you need to know about Angela Morrison. And now, sitting in that diner booth surrounded by 3 generations of secrets, I was about to find out exactly what that something was. The Magnolia Diner fell silent, like the whole world was holding its breath. 5 people in a booth, bound together by lies that spanned 3 generations. Victoria's red-painted nails tapped against the formica table, a steady rhythm like a ticking bomb. If you've been following my story, brace yourself. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time, because what I'm about to tell you changed everything I thought I knew about family. Your Harold was clever, Victoria said, her voice carrying the weight of decades, setting up that safety deposit box, leaving breadcrumbs. But did you read all of it? Rose, did you see the birth certificate? My hand instinctively clutched my purse, feeling the envelope inside. Marcus watched this gesture, his face unreadable. Angela, or whoever she really was, hadn't moved, her eyes fixed on her coffee cup. I don't understand, Marcus said, but there was something in his voice, a tremor that suggested maybe he did. Mom, just sign the papers, please. Victoria laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, honey, which mom are you talking to? The world tilted on its axis. I pulled out Harold's letter, my fingers shaking as I unfolded it to read the rest. Rose, Angela Morrison isn't just Victoria's granddaughter. She's your daughter. Our daughter. The baby we gave up in 1965 when we were just teenagers. Victoria's family adopted her. I've been watching her grow up from afar, sending money through Victoria, trying to protect her. But I failed. I failed both our children. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. Memories flooded back. The shame of a teenage pregnancy. My parents sending me away for a year. Harold's promises to make it right someday. We'd married 5 years later. Had Marcus built a perfect life. But our first child, our daughter. You knew? I whispered to Angela. All this time, she finally looked up. Her eyes, my eyes, filled with tears. I found out 10 years ago. Grandmother told me when she recruited me into the family business, but I couldn't do it anymore. Not to my own brother, not to you. Marcus stood up. So suddenly his knee hit the table, sending coffee cups rattling. This is insane. You're all lying. Mom, just sign the damn papers. Sit down, Victoria commanded, and surprisingly he did. Tell her the truth, Marcus. Tell her why you really need the money. My son, my youngest child, seemed to collapse in on himself. They have Rachel, he whispered. Victoria's people have my daughter, my 6-year-old. They said if I don't get them the money, your daughter, I breathed. But you never, because he knew you'd ask questions. Victoria cut in. About the mother, about why she disappeared. He didn't want you to know he'd fallen for the same con his father almost did. Like mother, like daughter, like granddaughter. She smiled at Angela. Well, until this one grew a conscience. What would you do if you discovered your entire family was built on a foundation of lies? If the son you raised was being blackmailed by the same family that adopted the daughter you gave up? Angela reached into her bag, pulled out a phone. That's where you're wrong, grandmother. Rachel's safe. I got her out last night. And this, she pressed play on a recording, is you admitting to everything. The cons, the blackmail, all of it. The FBI has copies. Victoria's face went slack. For the first time, she looked her age. You didn't. I did. For my brother. For my mother. For every family you've destroyed. Angela's voice was steel. It ends now. The diner's door burst open. Men in dark suits entered quietly, efficiently. Victoria didn't resist as they led her away. Her daughter, the woman who'd come in with Marcus, was already gone, the back door swinging closed behind her. Marcus put his head in his hands. Rachel, she's really safe? With her mother, Angela nodded. Your ex-wife didn't abandon you, Marcus. Victoria threatened her too. She's been waiting for this day. I reached across the table, took both my children's hands in mine. My daughter, given up but never forgotten. My son, nearly lost to the same demons that had haunted his father. Both victims of Victoria Chase's generational web of destruction. The house papers, I said quietly. Were they even real? Marcus shook his head. Forgeries. All of it. Mom, I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting Rachel, but I was just repeating Dad's mistakes. No, I squeezed his hand. Your father's mistake was keeping secrets, but he tried to make it right in the end. He left us the truth when we were ready to see it. Tell me in the comments, what would you do now with a family broken and rebuilt in a single morning? With a daughter found and a son saved? With the truth finally set free after 50 years? Angela, my firstborn, my lost child, smiled through her tears. Maybe we can start over. All of us. Outside the diner windows, police cars pulled away with Victoria Chase inside. The morning sun broke through the clouds, casting long shadows behind us but lighting the path ahead. Sometimes I've learned it takes losing everything you thought you had to find everything you never knew you needed. If this story has touched you, please subscribe, because the journey of healing is just beginning, and real family is worth fighting for. 1 week after the diner revelation, I sat in my garden, watching Marcus and Rachel playing among the roses. Harold planted, my granddaughter, a title that still caught in my throat with its newness, had her father's eyes and a laugh that could heal broken things. Angela sat beside me on the porch swing, both of us silent, learning the shape of our shared space. If you're still with me on this journey, hit that like button. Family healing isn't always pretty, but it's beautiful, and your support means everything. I found more papers, Angela said quietly, pulling out a worn envelope, in Grandmother Victoria's house, after the FBI finished. There's something you should see about Dad, about Harold. My hands trembled as I took the envelope. Inside was a letter dated just days before Harold's death, addressed to Victoria. You've had your pound of flesh, 30 years of payments, watching my firstborn grow up from a distance, using that guilt to keep me quiet, but it ends now. I'm telling Rose everything about Angela, about the money, about your threats. Our children deserve the truth. Angela's hand found mine. He died the next day. Car accident, they said. But Grandmother's files. She paused, swallowing hard. It wasn't an accident. The world seemed to stop spinning for a moment. All these years, I'd mourned Harold thinking he'd died in a tragic accident. Now knowing it was murder, Victoria's final act of control made my blood run cold. Does Marcus know? I whispered. Not yet, but there's more. Angela pulled out another document. Dad, Harold. He didn't just leave that safety deposit box. He left evidence with his lawyer. Everything about Victoria's organization, every payment, every threat. Time to be released if anything happened to him. But it never was released, I said. Realization dawning, because the lawyer was on Victoria's payroll. But now, Angela smiled grimly. Now we have everything we need to take down what's left of her network. The FBI is moving on her associates as we speak. What would you do with the truth about your husband's murder, with the knowledge that justice was finally within reach? Marcus approached the porch, carrying a sleepy Rachel. She wants her grandma, he said softly, passing her to me. As I held her, I saw Harold in her features, the same determination in her chin, the same kindness in her eye. We need to talk about the house, Marcus said, sitting on the porch steps. I know I tried to, well, you know, but maybe, instead of selling it, we could make it bigger. Room for everyone. Angela looked at me, hope and uncertainty dancing in her expression. I could transfer to the local bank branch. If you'd want me closer. The weight of Rachel in my arms, the sight of my 2 children sitting together, the ghost of Harold in our midst. It all swirled together like a painting finally coming into focus. Your father built this house for family, I said. All of our family, even the ones we didn't know we had yet. Just then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. When I answered, a familiar voice spoke. Mrs. Jenkins. This is Detective Morrison. We've found something in Victoria's old storage unit, something about Harold's accident, and about your parents' role in Angela's adoption. The air seemed to freeze in my lungs. My parents. It appears they were working with Victoria from the beginning. The adoption wasn't just about shame or societal pressure. It was about money, a lot of money. Angela gripped my hand tighter. Marcus stood, protective instinct flaring. Rachel stirred in my arms, innocent to the decades of betrayal unfolding around her. What secrets did my own parents take to their graves? How deep did this web of deception really go? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because this revelation was about to unravel everything we thought we knew about the past. There's a safe, the detective continued. We think it contains documents from the past 50 years. We need you, all of you, to come down and identify some photographs. I looked at my children, at my granddaughter, at the house Harold built and died protecting. Sometimes healing means opening old wounds, facing painful truth, but this time, we would face them together. They'll be there, I said. All of us. As I hung up, Rachel wrapped her small arms around my neck and whispered, I love you, Grandma. In that moment, I realized that while the past might be darker than we imagined, The future was brighter than we dared to hope. If you want to know what we found in that storage unit, subscribe and stay tuned, because sometimes the deepest betrayals lead to the strongest bonds, and this family's story isn't over yet. The police station's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows as Detective Morrison led us down a sterile hallway. The storage unit's contents had been brought here, pieces of our past laid out like evidence of a crime we were only beginning to understand. Rachel was with her mother, safe at home, while my children and I faced whatever truths that safe held. If you're just joining us, take a moment to subscribe. This journey through the past is about to reveal secrets that will change everything again. The safe sat on a metal table, already cracked open by the forensics team. It was smaller than I'd imagined, barely larger than a bread box, but it held decades of deception within its steel walls. "Miss Jenkins," Detective Morrison said, pulling on latex gloves, "we need you to verify some things." He began removing items, photographs, letters, ledgers. "Your parents, Thomas and Eleanor Mitchell, they were wealthy, correct? Old money." I nodded. "Daddy's shipping business, Mama's family inheritance, that they lost everything in the 80s. At least that's what they told us." Angela stepped forward, her banker's eye catching something in the ledgers. "This doesn't show loss. It shows transfer regular payments, starting in 1965, the year I was born." Marcus picked up a photograph, his hand shaking. It showed our grandparents with Victoria Chase, all much younger, standing in front of Mitchell Shipping. They were smiling, looking more like business partners than strangers. "They didn't just know her," I whispered. "They worked with her." Detective Morrison pulled out a contract, yellowed with age but preserved in plastic. "According to this, your parents entered into an agreement with Victoria Chase, and they would arrange their teenage daughter's disgrace and subsequent pregnancy." "Arrange?" My voice cracked. "What do you mean, arrange?" Angela's face had gone white. She was reading another document, her professional composure cracking. Harold wasn't my father. The pregnancy was planned. Victoria provided a specific donor, a man with certain genetic traits. They wanted to create the perfect con artist. Me. What would you do if you discovered your entire existence was engineered? If your parents had orchestrated not just an adoption but a creation? Marcus caught me as my knees buckled. The metal chair was cold as I sank into it, memories realigning themselves like pieces of a broken mirror. The boy my parents had suddenly forbidden me to see, the new student who'd appeared, so handsome, so interested in the shy, wealthy girl. The pregnancy that followed so quickly. But Harold, I managed. He loved me. We married. We had Marcus. Detective Morrison handed me a letter, Harold's handwriting, but not the same letter from the safety deposit box. This one was darker, angry. "My dearest Rose, I've discovered the truth about your parents, about Victoria, about Angela's real father. They used us both. You as a vessel, their experiment, me as a convenient cover once their plan succeeded. But I loved you from the moment I met you, and I've loved our daughter from afar all these years. Marcus is ours, truly ours. They didn't plan his. That's why they tried to stop our marriage. Why they cut you off. He wasn't part of their grand design. I'm going to expose everything. If you're reading this, I didn't survive the attempt. All my love, Harold." Angela sat beside me, her hand finding mine. "That's why I couldn't do it, why I couldn't continue their con. When I found out I was literally bred for it, something in me broke. Or maybe something finally healed. There's more," Detective Morrison said quietly. "Victoria wasn't just running cons. This was a multi-generational eugenics experiment, creating children with specific traits, placing them in wealthy families, building a network of perfectly designed manipulators. Your parents were early investors." Marcus swore under his breath. "So when I met Rachel's mother, it wasn't random," Angela finished. "They were watching you, planning. Rachel was supposed to be the then's generation." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as we absorbed this horror. My parents hadn't just given away their granddaughter. They'd helped create her as part of some twisted human breeding program. They'd sacrificed their own child for it. Tell me in the comments, how do you begin to forgive something like this? How do you move forward when your very existence was someone else's experiment? "But they failed," I said suddenly, looking at my children. "You both chose love over their design. You chose family. Angela smiled through tears. Nature versus nurture. Even with their perfect genetic planning, they couldn't program the heart. Detective Morrison cleared his throat. There's one more thing. The FBI found offshore accounts. Your parents' fortune wasn't lost. It was hidden. As their only legal heir, Mrs. Jenkins, it all reverts to you. No, I said firmly. It reverts to us. To all of us. We'll use their blood money to build something they never could. A real family. Marcus picked up another photograph. Harold, with baby Angela. Taken in secret. Dad knew everything but still chose love. Still chose us. What secrets remain in that safe? What other revelations wait in those documents? Share your theories below. And don't forget to subscribe for the next chapter. Because this story isn't just about the past anymore. It's about how we choose to write our future. As we left the police station that evening, 3 generations bound by blood and choice, I realized that sometimes the greatest act of rebellion against hate is to love anyway. To choose family over fate. To rewrite the ending they planned for us. Chapter 8. The House of Cards. The following week, I watched from my kitchen window as workers began renovating the house. Our house. The inheritance money. Clean now after FBI scrutiny was being put to better use than my parents ever imagined. But even as we built new rooms for our growing family, another kind of reconstruction was happening inside these walls. Before I continue, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Every like helps share this story of healing and redemption with others who might need to hear it. Angela sat at the kitchen table, spreading out documents from the safe. Her banker's precision had turned to a different purpose now. Unraveling decades of carefully orchestrated manipulation. Marcus paced behind her, Rachel's drawings clutched in his hand like a talisman. Look at this, Angela said, pointing to a ledger entry. Every major family they targeted, every child they created. There are dozens of us out there. All designed, all placed strategically. Marcus stopped pacing. You mean I might have other siblings? Half-siblings, she corrected gently. Different donors, same program. The FBI is tracking them down now, offering support, counseling. A knock at the door interrupted us. Detective Morrison stood there, holding another box of documents, but it was the woman behind him that made my heart stop. She could have been Angela's twin, just a few years younger. Mrs. Jenkins, the detective said. This is Catherine Chen. She's another child from the program. She's been helping us unravel Victoria's network, and she has something you need to hear. What would you do if your family kept growing, each new member carrying pieces of a puzzle you never knew existed? Catherine's hands trembled as she sat down. I was placed with a family in San Francisco, but unlike Angela, I followed the program. At least until last month. She pulled out a flash drive. This contains everything. The genetic profiles, the psychological conditioning methods, the financial networks. But more importantly, it has the names of everyone involved in running the program. Including, Marcus prompted. Your father's accident wasn't ordered by Victoria, Catherine said softly. It was ordered by someone still alive. Someone still operating parts of the program. Angela's face went pale. Grandmother's in custody. Her daughter's gone. Who else could? Your mother's sister, I whispered, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. Eleanor's sister Patricia. She always lived with us. Helped raise me. She disappeared right after I got pregnant with you. Catherine nodded. Patricia Mitchell. She's been running the West Coast operation all these years. And according to these files, she's still actively placing children. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. We have to stop her. We will, Detective Morrison assured us. But we need your help. All of you. These files suggest she's planning something big, a new generation of placements, and she's holding a reunion next month for all the successful program children. A trap, Angela said. She's trying to gather everyone who knows the truth. I looked at my children, one bred for deception but choosing truth, one born of love but nearly lost to manipulation. What do you need us to do? The detective laid out the plan. Angela and Catherine would attend the reunion, wearing wires. Marcus would monitor from outside with the FBI, and I would face my aunt, the woman who helped orchestrate my daughter's creation. Share in the comments, would you risk everything to stop a decades-old conspiracy? To protect not just your family but countless others from the same fate as we planned into the night, Rachel's drawings still scattered across the table. I thought about Harold. He died trying to expose this truth. Now we had the chance to finish what he started. There's something else, Catherine said hesitantly. The genetic profiling wasn't just about creating perfect con artists. They were building something bigger. Each child was designed with specific traits, specific abilities. Together we were supposed to form some kind of human network, a living web of influence spanning politics, finance, technology. Angela picked up one of Rachel's drawings, a family tree but with strange symbols she'd added between the branches. She knows, Angela whispered. Somehow, she can see the connections. That's why they wanted her so badly. The renovation sounds outside suddenly felt like cover for something else. How many eyes were watching us? How deep did this web really go? Tomorrow, Detective Morrison said, standing to leave. We'll start tomorrow. Get some rest tonight. Once it begins, we finish it, I said firmly. For Harold. For every child they tried to turn into a puppet. For every family they tried to destroy. As Catherine and the detective left, I looked at my expanded family. Angela, Marcus, the ghost of Harold in our midst, and Rachel's drawings promising a future we would fight to make free. Don't forget to subscribe for what happens next, because this story is building to a confrontation 50 years in the making. Sometimes the hardest monsters to slay are the ones who wear your family's face. Tomorrow we would begin dismantling an empire built on stolen children, an engineered destiny. But tonight, we held each other close, knowing that love, messy, unplanned, imperfect love, was the one thing they could never program. The reunion venue was exactly what you'd expect from someone like Aunt Patricia, a sprawling estate in the Hamptons, old money dripping from every manicured hedge and marble column. I watched from the FBI surveillance van as Angela and Catherine walked up the grand steps, both wearing elegant dresses that concealed state-of-the-art recording equipment. If you're joining us for this climactic moment, make sure to subscribe. The truth we're about to uncover will change everything we thought we knew about power and family. Marcus sat beside me, his fingers drumming nervously on the monitoring equipment. Through our earpieces, we could hear the soft string quartet playing inside, the murmur of voices that carried decades of carefully crafted deception. Remember, Detective Morrison's voice crackled through the comm system. We need concrete evidence of current operations. Historical crimes are already documented. We're looking for proof of ongoing child placement and genetic programming. Angela's voice came through, barely a whisper. There's at least 30 people here who look like they could be programmed children, all in their 30s or 40s, all in positions of power. I recognize some from banking circles, tech companies, political campaigns, movement at the main entrance. Catherine added, It's her. Through the surveillance cameras, I saw my aunt for the first time in 50 years. Patricia Mitchell hadn't aged so much as crystallized, her silver hair and sharp features carved from the same ice that must run through her veins. She wore a deep blue suit that probably cost more than most people's cars, and her smile was exactly as I remembered it, beautiful and terrifying. What would you do if you came face to face with someone who saw your entire family as nothing but genetic material to be shaped and controlled? Welcome, my dear children, Patricia's voice rang through our earpieces. How wonderful to see the fruits of our careful planning. Each of you, perfected through science and strategy, now occupying the positions we envisioned before you were even conceived. Marcus gripped my hand as we listened. Through the cameras I could see Angela and Catherine exchanging subtle glances with others in the crowd, faces that shared familiar features, echoes of the genetic templates Patricia and her collaborators had used. And now, Patricia continued, we begin phase 2, your own children. The next generation will complete what we started. The network of influence we've built through you will become absolute through them. The genetic markers we've refined over decades are finally ready for full expression. Angela's voice, steady despite everything. And what about those who don't want their children to be part of this? Those of us who've learned the truth? Patricia's laugh was like breaking glass. My dear Angela, did you really think your little rebellion went unnoticed? Your collaboration with the FBI? Please, we designed you to be brilliant. Did you think we wouldn't anticipate every move? The feed suddenly crackled with static. Detective Morrison swore, fingers flying over keyboards. We're being jammed. All frequencies. Mom, Marcus's voice was tight with fear. The vans surrounded. Through the failing cameras I caught glimpses of men in dark suits converging on the house. Patricia's voice came through in bursts. Perfect opportunity to gather the defectors. Cleanup protocol initiated. No loose ends this time. Tell me in the comments, how do you fight an enemy who literally helped create you? Who knows how your mind works because they designed it? But then I heard something that made my blood freeze. Rachel's voice, clear as day, through the chaos of static. Grandma, I'm scared. How? Marcus started to rise, but I grabbed his arm. Listen, I said. That's not live. That's a recording. Patricia's voice confirmed it. Yes, your precious Rachel is quite safe. For an amazing child, the culmination of all our work. She's already showing abilities we only theorized about. Patterns, connections. The ability to see the web that binds all things. She'll be the key to everything. Through the static, Angela's voice, sharp with rage. Where is she? Where she belongs. With us. Coming quietly would be wise, dear ones. After all, we are family. But Patricia had made a crucial mistake. In her moment of triumph, she'd forgotten something fundamental about the children she'd helped create. Something even she couldn't program out of their DNA. Catherine's voice, calm and clear. Now, suddenly, the static cleared. The surveillance screens blazed back to life, and through our earpieces we heard dozens of voices speaking in unison. FBI, nobody move. The guests Patricia had so carefully gathered, each one had come wired, working with law enforcement. Every perfect child she thought she controlled had turned against her. Don't forget to subscribe to find out what happens next, because this isn't just about taking down Patricia. It's about finding Rachel and finally ending a legacy of manipulation that spans generations. Through the chaos of arrests and revelations, I watched my daughter, my beautiful, brilliant, rebellious daughter, walk straight up to Patricia Mitchell. You forgot something, Aunt Patricia. You can engineer genes, but you can't program the heart. And love will always be stronger than your precious science. As the FBI led Patricia away in handcuffs, Detective Morrison turned to us in the van. Rachel's location was in the files Catherine brought us. She's safe already in protective custody. We kept that quiet until now. Marcus collapsed in relief, but I kept watching the screens. Because in Patricia's face, as they took her away, I saw something that chilled me more than anything else had. She was smiling. What final twist does Patricia have planned? What secrets still lie buried in our family's twisted genetics? Share your theories below, because this story isn't over yet. Sometimes the most dangerous moment comes right after you think you've won. 3 months after Patricia's arrest, I sat in my garden watching Rachel play with her cousins, children we'd found through the FBI investigation, all part of the program, all now part of our ever-growing family. The roses Harold planted were blooming again, their scent mixing with the sound of children's laughter, a combination that felt like healing. For those who've followed this journey from the beginning, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe for future updates on our family's path forward. Angela and Marcus sat with me on the porch, both holding copies of Patricia's final psychological evaluation from prison. The words on the page seemed to mock us. Subject exhibits no remorse. Continues to insist the program's success is already guaranteed. She's still smiling, Angela said softly. Even after 3 months in federal custody, even with all her assets frozen and her network exposed. Why? The answer came in a most unexpected way. Rachel looked up from her play, her eyes suddenly distant in that way we'd come to recognize. The flowers know, she said. They're all connected underground, like us. Marcus started to dismiss it as child's play, but I held up my hand. What do you mean, sweetheart? Rachel walked over, taking my hand in her small one. Great Aunt Patricia put something in all of us, not just the grown-ups. It's waiting, like seeds. What would you do if you discovered the weapon meant to destroy you was buried in your very DNA? Detective Morrison arrived an hour later with Catherine and a team of genetic specialists. As they explained what they'd found in Patricia's private files, my blood ran cold. It's a genetic time bomb, Catherine explained. spreading out complex charts, set to activate in the third generation, Rachel's generation. The abilities we're seeing in her, they're just the beginning. Patricia engineered a kind of psychic network, dormant genes that would activate when enough of the third generation came of age. Angela leaned forward. But for what purpose? Control, Detective Morrison said grimly. Once activated, these children would be connected to each other, and to a central consciousness. Patricia planned to use experimental technology to upload her own mind into this network. She wouldn't just control them, she would become them. Marcus grabbed Rachel protectively. Can it be stopped? Catherine nodded, but her expression was grave. There's a treatment being developed, but we need all the third-generation children, every single one. If even one carries the active gene sequence into adulthood, then Patricia wins. I finished. Even from prison, even after death. Share in the comments. How far would you go to protect not just your family's present, but their genetic future? The next few weeks became a blur of medical procedures and reunion. Families came from across the country bringing their children, Rachel's genetic cousins, for treatment. Our house became a sanctuary, its newly renovated rooms filled with the sound of young voices. Patricia's smile finally faded when she learned what we'd discovered. Her final letter, delivered the day before she died in prison. She wrote, "Dear Rose, you think you've won. Perhaps you have. But remember, you're all my children. In the end, every time you look in the mirror, every time you see your own strength and intelligence, remember who designed those traits. I am written into your DNA. I am eternal." Patricia. But as I watched Rachel playing with her cousins after their treatments, all of them free from Patricia's genetic manipulation, I realized something profound. Yes, she had engineered certain traits, chosen specific genes, but what made Angela choose love over programming? What made Marcus fight for his daughter? What made Catherine brave enough to expose the truth? Those weren't things Patricia created. "Mom," Angela said, sitting beside me on the porch swing. The FBI found one more thing in Patricia's files. About Dad. About Harold. She handed me a DNA test result. Harold's name was there alongside mine, alongside the donor Patricia had chosen. But the percentages were impossible. "He was my father," Angela whispered. "My biological father. Patricia's perfect donor. It was Harold all along. She didn't count on him falling in love with you for real. Their perfect plan failed before it even began because of something they couldn't control, genuine love." Tears fell on the paper as 50 years of guilt and grief transformed into something else. Harold hadn't just chosen to love a pregnant teenager, he'd been fighting for his own child all along. If you've stayed with us through this journey, you know that family isn't about perfect genes or carefully engineered traits. It's about choice. It's about love. Today our house stands transformed. The rooms Patricia's money built now shelter healing and hope. Rachel's abilities remain. Her gift for seeing connections, for understanding the invisible bonds between people, but they're her own now, free from any hidden programming. "Grandma," she said last night, curled up in Harold's old chair, "the roses are all different colors, but their roots still touch underground. That's like us, isn't it? All different, but connected by love." Out of the mouths of babes comes wisdom Patricia could never engineer. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts below. Our story might be ending, but for families everywhere fighting against those who would control and manipulate them, the journey continues, because in the end, love isn't a genetic trait, it's a choice we make every day, and that choice, that precious human freedom to love despite everything, is stronger than any program, any manipulation, any carefully engineered plan. Harold knew that, now we all do. Thank you for following our family's journey. Remember, the strongest bonds aren't written in DNA, they're written in the heart.